The Great Hall of the Galactic Council buzzed with quiet conversations. Hundreds of alien species sat in their assigned seats waiting for the meeting to begin. At the center of the massive room, Elder Vorthak stood tall on his 4 legs. His blue skin glowed softly in the dim light, and his 6 eyes looked around the room with ancient wisdom. "Fellow beings," Vorthak spoke, his voice carrying across the hall without any technology. "Today we must discuss the Terran exclusion zone once again." Many aliens shifted in their seats. Some rolled their eyes. Others made sounds of boredom. The Terran exclusion zone was an old topic that came up every few years. Most thought it was silly. Captain G1 of the Kalani Empire leaned back in his chair. His golden skin reflected the lights above, and his sharp teeth showed when he smiled. He was young for a Kalani officer, only 200 years old, but he had already won many battles. G1 thought the old rules were stupid. "The zone around the 3rd planet of the Sol system must remain protected," Vorthak continued. "The humans living there are not ready for contact." "Not ready?" G1 stood up, his voice cutting through the hall. "Elder, with respect, that planet has been watched for over 1,000 years. The humans there still use metal ships and chemical rockets. They fight each other with simple weapons. How long must we wait?" Other aliens began to nod and make agreeing sounds. The insect-like Vextar clicked their mandibles in approval. The crystal beings called Jeknari hummed in harmony. Even the wolf-like Gulthani growled their support. Vorthak's oldest eyes focused on G1. "Young Captain, there are reasons for the exclusion zone that go beyond simple technology levels." "What reasons?" demanded Commander Hinsik, another Kalani officer. He was older than G1 and had scars across his face from many battles. "Our scans show massive deposits of rare minerals in their system, enough to power our fleets for centuries. Why should we ignore such wealth because of primitive beings?" The hall erupted in excited chatter. Many species had been struggling with resource shortages. The promise of unlimited rare minerals made their eyes light up with greed. Vorthak raised one of his 4 arms for silence. "The records are clear. Stay away from Earth. Stay away from its system. Stay away from its region of space." "Records from whom?" G1 challenged. "The ancients who disappeared millions of years ago. Elder, perhaps it is time to think with modern minds, not ancient fears." Many aliens cheered. The Vextar Queen Tixara stood on her 6 legs. Her compound eyes reflected rainbow colors as she spoke. "The captain speaks wisdom. My hive needs new worlds to grow. If these humans are as weak as they appear, perhaps it is time for stronger species to claim what they cannot protect." The Jeknari representative, a living crystal formation called Zephyros, resonated with musical tones. "Our energy needs grow daily. The solar system shows perfect conditions for our kind of life. Why should we hunger while primitives waste such bounty?" Pack leader Gorthak of the Gulthani snarled his agreement. His yellow fangs dripped saliva as he spoke. "The hunt has been denied to us for too long. These soft pink creatures would make good sport before we take their world." Vorthak looked around the hall with all 6 eyes. He could see that most of the council had already decided. The younger species outnumbered the older ones now. Fear had been replaced by ambition. "I have seen the recordings," Vorthak said quietly. "I have read the warnings left by those who came before. Something happened in that system long ago. Something that made the ancients afraid." "The ancients are gone," G1 said with a laugh. "Their fears died with them. We are stronger now. We have better ships, better weapons, better technology. What could a planet of primitives do against the combined might of our fleets?" The vote was called. Species after species voted to lift the Terran exclusion zone. Only the eldest races voted to keep it in place, and there were not enough of them left to matter. As the meeting ended, groups of aliens clustered together making secret plans. G1 found himself surrounded by officers from his own fleet. "Captain," said his second-in-command, "if we move fast we can claim the best territories before the others arrive." G1's smile was sharp and cruel. "Exactly. Prepare the 4th fleet. 200 ships should be more than enough to handle a primitive world." Across the hall, Queen Tixara was giving orders to her drone generals. 500 bioships will swarm their pathetic defenses. The humans will feed our larvae well. Zephyros sang to his crystal choir of a fleet of 150 energy ships that would drain the power from the human world and leave it dark forever. Pack leader. Gorthak howled to his sub-leaders about 300 hunting vessels that would turn the human system into the greatest hunting ground their species had ever known. as the various fleets prepared to leave. None of them wanted to share the prize. Each species planned to arrive first and claim the best parts of the human system for themselves. Elder Vorthak watched from the council chambers as the great ships powered up and began their journeys toward the Sol system. His ancient heart was heavy with worry. He walked to his private chamber and activated an old communication device that had not been used for centuries. The hologram that appeared was fuzzy and filled with static. An old human face looked back at him, scarred and tired but still alert. "Admiral Minho," Vorthak said sadly. They did not listen. "4 fleets are coming." The human's face did not show surprise, only grim acceptance. "How long do we have?" 6 of your months, perhaps 7. The Kalani are fastest, but the others will not be far behind. Admiral Minho nodded slowly. "We always knew this day might come. Thank you for the warning, old friend. We will be ready. I pray to the ancient stars that you truly will be," Vorthak said before ending the transmission. In space, 4 massive fleets began their journey toward a small blue planet that looked so peaceful and helpless. Their crews dreamed of easy conquest and vast riches. None of them remembered the old saying that had kept the galaxy peaceful for so long. The quiet ones are always the most dangerous. Behind them, Elder Vorthak sealed the council records with a new entry. "The Terran exclusion zone has been lifted against all wisdom. May the ancients forgive us for what we have unleashed." Captain Jiwan stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the stars stream past as his fleet traveled through hyperspace. Behind him, his navigation officer counted down the days until they reached the Sol system. 18 days remaining, Captain," the officer reported. Jiwan smiled. His 200 warships were the finest the Kalani Empire had ever built. Each ship carried plasma cannons that could melt through any known armor. His crew was experienced and hungry for victory. "Any word from our scouts?" Jiwan asked. "Yes, Captain. They report the same things as always. The humans have primitive satellites around their planet, some small space stations. Nothing that could threaten even one of our ships." Jiwan laughed. This would be easier than he had hoped. Far behind the Kalani fleet, Queen Tixara guided her swarm through space. The Vextar ships looked like giant insects, their biometal hulls pulsing with life. 500 vessels moved together like a cloud of death. "How much longer until we feed?" asked one of her drone commanders. 23 days, Tixara replied, her voice buzzing with excitement. "The human larvae will make our offspring strong." The Queen had studied the intelligence reports carefully. Humans were soft creatures with no natural weapons. They would be perfect food for her growing hive. In a different part of space, the Jeknari fleet sang as they traveled. Their crystal ships caught and reflected starlight, creating beautiful patterns. Sephiroth harmonized with his crystal choir about the energy they would harvest from the human world. "Their star burned so bright," one crystal singer noted. "We will drink deeply from its power." "And when we are finished," Zephyros added, "their world will be dark and cold. Perfect for our kind of life." The Gulthani pack howled through space in their hunting vessels. Pack leader Gorthak had chosen his best hunters for this expedition. 300 ships built for speed and violence raced toward their prey. "Tell me again about these humans," Gorthak demanded of his intelligence officer. "They are weak, pack leader. No claws, no fangs, no natural armor. They use tools to fight, but their weapons are simple: chemical explosives and metal projectiles." Gorthak's yellow eyes gleamed with hunger. "And how many are there?" "Our scouts estimate 8 billion on their homeworld alone." The pack leader's howl of joy echoed through his ship. 8 billion prey animals waiting to be hunted. His pack would feast for generations. While the 4 fleets raced toward Earth, Admiral Minho sat in his command center deep beneath the surface of Luna, Earth's moon. The room was filled with screens showing every part of the solar system. Technicians worked quietly at their stations, monitoring signals from across known space. "Sir," called Technician Boyung from his station. "We're getting confirmation. 4 separate fleets all heading our way." Admiral Minho's scarred face showed no emotion. He had been preparing for this day for 30 years. "Send the activation codes." Across the solar system, hidden installations began to wake up. What the aliens thought were dead asteroids started to power up their engines. Abandoned mining stations activated weapon systems that had been sleeping for decades. Even the space junk floating around Earth began to move with purpose. Dr. Yunji worked in her laboratory on Mars, putting the finishing touches on her latest project. The alien DNA samples that had been secretly collected over the years had finally revealed their secrets. The Kalani biology is interesting, she said to her assistant. They need a very specific temperature range to function. Too hot or too cold and they become sluggish. She moved to another workstation. The Vextar are even more vulnerable. Their bioships need constant chemical balance. Disrupt it and they die. Her research had uncovered weaknesses in every known alien species, information that would soon prove very valuable. General Sunwoo stood in the war room in Geneva, looking at a massive holographic display of Earth. Red dots showed where the alien fleets would likely attack first. Are the civilian shelters ready? He asked. Yes, sir, replied his aide. Every major city has deep bunkers that can protect the population for months if needed. And our defensive positions? All stations report ready, sir. The enemy will find us harder to crack than they expect. Specialist Dongmin sat in a small room filled with communication equipment. His job was to make sure the aliens kept believing humans were helpless. He sent out fake radio signals that made Earth sound primitive and unorganized. Emergency broadcast from New York, he transmitted. Alien ships detected. Military forces are overwhelmed. Requesting help from anyone who can hear this message. The message was completely fake, but alien scouts intercepted it and reported back that the humans were already panicking. Captain Jamin ran through his pre-flight checks in the hidden hangar beneath Mount Fuji. His fighter was unlike anything the aliens had in their databases. It could move faster than their sensors could track and hit harder than ships 10 times its size. All pilots report ready, came the voice over his radio. Good, Jamin replied. Let's remind these aliens why they should have stayed home. Engineer Nari worked on the Luna defense grid, making final adjustments to the massive weapons hidden beneath the moon's surface. The aliens thought Luna was just a dead rock. They would learn otherwise soon enough. As the days passed, more and more human installations came online. The asteroid belt revealed itself to be full of military stations disguised as mining operations. Jupiter's moons turned out to be heavily fortified bases. Even the outer planets had defensive systems that had been waiting silently for decades. Captain Jiwon received regular reports from his scouts. The humans still appeared helpless and unprepared. Their communications were full of panic and confusion. Their military forces seemed small and weak. This will be even easier than we thought, he told Commander Hyun-sik. Yoon-sik was not so sure. Something felt wrong about the situation, but he could not identify what it was. The intelligence reports were clear, but his instincts told him to be careful. Perhaps we should coordinate with the other fleets, he suggested. Jiwon laughed. And share the glory? No, old friend. We will arrive first and claim the best territories. The others can have what we leave behind. Queen Tixara was thinking the same thing. Her bioships were faster than crystal or metal vessels. She would reach the human system first and establish her hive before the others arrived. Sephiros calculated that his crystal ships could arrive at nearly the same time as the others. The confusion of a four-way battle would give him the perfect opportunity to drain the system's energy sources. Pack leader Gorthak was confident his hunters could outfight any of the other species. Even if he arrived last, his pack would take what they wanted through strength and violence. None of them realized that their prey was watching them approach. Hidden sensors tracked every ship, every movement, every communication. The humans knew exactly when each fleet would arrive and where they planned to attack. Admiral Minho looked at the final countdown display. 7 days until the first aliens arrived. Around him, his staff worked calmly and efficiently. There was no panic, no fear, only cold preparation. Send word to all stations, he ordered. Execute Operation Homecoming in 7 days. Let's welcome our guests properly. Across the solar system, the final preparations began. Humanity was about to show the galaxy something it had never seen before. Captain Jiwon's fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Sol system. The sight that greeted him was exactly what his scouts had reported. A single yellow star with several planets orbiting it. The third planet from the star glowed blue and white with water and clouds. Magnificent, Jiwon whispered as he looked at Earth through his view screen. And all ours for the taking. His navigation officer checked their sensors. Captain, we are detecting the other fleets arriving as well. Jiwon cursed under his breath. The Vextar swarm materialized near Jupiter, their bioships pulsing with hungry life. The Jeknari crystal formation appeared near Mars, their vessels singing with harmonic resonance. The Gulthani hunting pack dropped in near the asteroid belt, their ships already spreading out in attack formation. So much for arriving first. muttered Commander Hyunsik. Jiwan straightened his uniform. It did not matter. His fleet was still the strongest, and he would make the first move. "Open a communication channel to the human planet," he ordered. The signal reached Earth in minutes. In his command center beneath Luna, Admiral Minho received the transmission with a calm expression. His gray hair was pulled back and his uniform was perfectly pressed. Around him, dozens of technicians monitored screens showing every alien ship in the system. Captain Jiwan's image appeared on the main screen. His golden skin gleamed as he spoke with supreme confidence. "Primitive humans of Earth," Jiwan announced. "I am Captain Jiwan of the Kalani Empire. Your world and system now belong to us. Surrender immediately, and we will allow some of you to live as our servants. Resist, and you will all die." Admiral Minho stood slowly and activated the return transmission. His scarred face remained calm as he spoke. "Captain Jiwan, this is Admiral Minho of the Earth Defense Force. We decline your generous offer. Earth and our system will remain under human control. We suggest you leave peacefully while you still can." The alien captain's expression changed from confidence to amusement, then to anger. "You dare refuse us? We have 200 warships armed with plasma weaponry. What do you have? Metal tubes that barely reach your own moon?" Admiral Minho's expression did not change. "We have enough." The transmission ended. On his bridge, Jiwan turned to his weapons officer. "Target their largest cities. Prepare to demonstrate the price of defiance." But Queen Tixera had the same idea. Her swarm moved toward Earth from a different angle, ready to release clouds of acidic spores that would dissolve human flesh in seconds. Zephyros began charging his crystal ship's energy weapons, planning to drain the power from Earth's electrical grid and leave the humans in darkness. Pack leader Gorthak ordered his hunting vessels to spread out and attack from multiple directions. His pack would turn this into the greatest hunt in their species' history. The 4 alien fleets began their attack runs, each thinking they would be the first to strike the helpless human world. That was when everything went wrong. Captain Jamin sat in his fighter deep beneath Mount Fuji, watching his instruments. The moment the alien ships entered Earth's atmosphere, proximity alarms began screaming throughout the hidden base. "All units, this is Control," came the voice over his radio. "Execute Homecoming Alpha. Repeat, execute Homecoming Alpha." Jamin's fighter shot up through a concealed tunnel and burst into the sky. Around the world, hundreds of similar fighters emerged from mountains, lakes, and buildings that had seemed completely normal moments before. The Kalani ships approaching North America suddenly found themselves surrounded by sleek fighters that moved faster than anything in their databases. Before Jiwan's pilots could react, plasma beams lanced out from the human craft, cutting through Kalani's shields like they were made of paper. "Impossible," Jiwan shouted as he watched 10 of his ships explode in the first 30 seconds. "How can they move so fast?" Engineer Nari activated the Luna defense grid from her control station. The moon's surface erupted as massive weapon emplacements rose from hidden bunkers. Particle beams and kinetic projectiles struck the approaching Vextar, bioships with devastating effect. Queen Tixera watched in horror as her beautiful biovessels were torn apart by weapons she had never seen before. The metal projectiles moved at impossible speeds, punching through her ship's living armor like it was soft flesh. "How do they have such technology?" she screamed at her drone generals. "Our intelligence said they were primitives." The Jekanari fleet approaching from Mars found themselves facing a different surprise. What they had thought was empty space suddenly filled with human ships that had been invisible moments before. The stealth technology was beyond anything the crystal beings had encountered. Zephyros tried to drain energy from the human vessels, but their power sources were shielded in ways that made no sense. Instead of drawing power, his ships began to overload as the humans somehow reversed the energy flow. "This is not possible," he sang in crystalline panic. Their technology should not exist. The Gulthani hunting pack found themselves being hunted instead of hunting. Captain Suyong led a squadron of human fighters that moved like predators, striking from multiple directions and disappearing before the aliens could respond. Pack. Leader Gorthik watched as his finest hunters were picked off one by prey that was supposed to be helpless. "Evasive maneuvers," he howled. "All ships, evasive maneuvers!" But the human ships were everywhere. They emerged from behind asteroids that turned out to be disguised battle stations. They rose from the surfaces of moons that had seemed dead and empty. They appeared from the depths of space where nothing should have been hiding. Major Sungho piloted one of humanity's experimental vessels, a craft that seemed to bend the laws of physics. His ship could turn in directions that should have been impossible, accelerating in ways that should have killed him from the forces involved. He targeted a Kalani cruiser and fired a weapon that the aliens had never seen before. The beam passed right through the cruiser's shields and armor, disrupting the molecular bonds that held the ship together. The massive vessel simply came apart like it was made of sand. Dr. Yunji monitored the battle from her laboratory on Mars. The biological weapons she had developed were working perfectly. Kalani ships began to experience system failures as their crews succumbed to targeted pathogens designed specifically for their biology. Vextar bioships started dying as chemical agents disrupted their living components. The carefully balanced biology that made their vessels work became their greatest weakness. Lieutenant Minji flew her fighter directly at Captain Jiwan's flagship. The massive Kalani dreadnought fired every weapon it had at the tiny human craft, but somehow every shot missed. The fighter moved like it was dancing between the plasma beams. Minji's return fire was a single precise shot that penetrated the flagship's bridge. Captain Jiwan watched in disbelief as his command center filled with smoke, and his officers fell unconscious from a gas that seemed to target only Kalani biology. "How?" he whispered as his vision faded. How did they know? Within 2 hours of beginning their attack, the 4 alien fleets were in full retreat. The Kalani had lost half their ships. The Vextar swarm was reduced to scattered survivors. The Jeknari formation was almost completely destroyed. The Gulthani pack was running for their lives. Admiral Minho watched the retreating aliens from his command center. Around him, his staff tracked every fleeing vessel. "Sir," reported Technician Boyoung, "should we pursue?" Admiral Minho considered the question carefully. The aliens had come to his system with the intention of conquest and genocide. They had threatened to enslave or kill every human being alive. "Launch pursuit squadrons," he ordered quietly. "Make sure they understand the message." Captain Gunwu led the human pursuit force as it followed the fleeing aliens out of the solar system. The message they carried was simple. Earth would not tolerate threats to human life or territory. The galaxy was about to learn that some sleeping giants should never be awakened. Behind them, Earth continued to spin peacefully in space, looking as calm and defenseless as it always had. But now the aliens knew the truth that the Galactic Council had tried to warn them about. Humans were not prey. They were predators, and they had been waiting patiently for someone to give them a reason to hunt. Captain Jiwan woke up in his flagship's medical bay with his head pounding and his pride shattered. The human gas had knocked out his entire bridge crew but somehow had not killed them. Through the viewport he could see the wreckage of his fleet scattered across space. "Status report," he croaked to Commander Hyunsik, who was sitting nearby with bandages around his head. "We have lost 112 ships," Hyunsik said quietly. "The survivors are damaged and low on supplies. The humans," he paused, struggling to find words. "The humans were ready for us." Jiwan tried to sit up, but pain shot through his skull. "That is impossible. Our intelligence was perfect. They are primitives with simple technology." "Our intelligence was wrong," Hyunsik replied. "They have weapons we have never seen. Ships that move like nothing in our databases. They knew exactly how to hurt us." Across the system, Queen Tixara surveyed the remains of her once mighty swarm. Of her 500 bioships, fewer than 150 remained functional. The rest floated dead in space, their living components poisoned by human weapons designed specifically to kill Vextar biology. "How did they know?" she asked her surviving drone generals. "How did they know precisely what chemicals would kill our ships?" One of the drones, its compound eyes dim with shock, replied, "They have been studying us, Queen. They knew our weaknesses better than we knew them ourselves." The Jeknari fleet was in even worse condition. Zephyros had lost communication with most of his crystal choir. The harmony that allowed their ships to function was broken, and those vessels that survived were operating at minimal capacity. "The humans turned our own energy against us," he sang in broken notes. "They made our strength into weakness." Pack leader Gorthak howled in rage as he counted his losses. His hunting pack had been hunted like prey animals. The humans had moved through his formations like ghosts, striking where they were weakest and vanishing before his warriors could respond. "They fight like cowards," he snarled to his sub-leaders. "No honor, no courage. They hide and strike from shadows." Perhaps, pack leader, replied one of his lieutenants carefully. That is why they won. But the aliens' troubles were far from over. As they tried to regroup and tend their wounds, new human forces began appearing throughout the solar system. Admiral Chulwu's Mars defense fleet emerged from hidden bases carved into the red planet's surface. His ships were larger than the fighters that had hit the aliens initially, built for sustained combat rather than quick strikes. All units, this is Mars Command. Chulwu broadcast to his fleet. The aliens are regrouping near Jupiter. Let's make sure they understand their situation. The Kalani survivors found themselves facing fresh human warships that seemed to appear from nowhere. These vessels were heavily armed and showed no signs of the damage that should have come from the first battle. Where did they come from? Chiwan demanded. How many ships do they have? The answer came when Colonel Jisoo activated the Jupiter Station garrison. What the aliens had thought was a simple research outpost revealed itself as a massive military installation. Weapon platforms and defense stations materialized from behind Jupiter's moons, surrounding the alien fleets with overwhelming firepower. This is Colonel Jisoo of Jupiter Station, she broadcast to the aliens. You are surrounded. Power down your weapons and prepare to be escorted out of our system. Queen Tixara realized they had walked into a trap. The humans had not just been ready for their attack. They had been ready for a prolonged war. Hidden bases throughout the solar system were revealing themselves, each one bristling with weapons and swarming with fresh ships. The asteroid belt itself seemed to come alive as mining stations transformed into mobile battle platforms. What had looked like simple industrial equipment turned out to be disguised military installations. Captain Su Young infiltrated a Vex-Tar bioship that was trying to limp away from the battle. Her stealth suit made her invisible to their sensors, and her weapons were designed to disrupt their living technology without killing the crew. She planted devices throughout the ship that would prevent it from entering hyperspace, then transmitted the ship's location to the pursuing human forces. The aliens were not going to escape to spread word of Earth's defenses. The Vex-Tar tried desperately to coordinate their biological weapons. They released clouds of spores designed to eat through metal and plastic, hoping to disable the human ships. But the spores simply bounced off the human vessels' hulls without doing any damage. Their armor is immune to our weapons, reported a drone general to Queen Tixara. It is like they knew exactly what we would use against them. Dr. Yunji had indeed known. Years of studying alien biology had allowed her to create countermeasures for every possible attack. The human ships were coated with substances that neutralized Vex-Tar spores, shielded against Jeknari energy drain, and resistant to Kalani plasma fire. The Jeknari attempted to drain power from Earth's sun itself, thinking they could darken the entire system and force the humans to surrender. But when they tried to tap into the star's energy, they found it protected by a network of devices they had never seen before. Sephiroth screamed in harmony as his ships overloaded from feedback. The humans had somehow turned the sun itself into a weapon, reflecting the Jeknari energy back at them with devastating effect. The Gulthani made one last desperate attempt to salvage their hunt. Pack Leader Gorthak ordered his remaining ships to ram the human vessels, hoping to take some of their enemies with them in death. But the human ships simply moved out of the way. Their pilots seemed to know exactly where each alien vessel was going to be before it got there. The Gulthani found themselves ramming empty space while human fighters destroyed them from behind. Major Seungho tested humanity's most advanced experimental craft against the fleeing aliens. His ship moved in ways that violated every law of physics the aliens knew. It could accelerate instantly in any direction, turn without losing speed, and strike from impossible angles. He pursued a group of Kalani cruisers that were trying to escape toward the edge of the system. His single fighter destroyed all 6 ships in less than 10 minutes, using weapons that seemed to work by completely different principles than anything in the galactic databases. Lieutenant Minji led her squadron in hunting down the surviving command vessels. Each alien fleet had flagships carrying their leaders and their most sensitive intelligence data. The humans wanted those ships disabled, not destroyed. She found Captain Jiwon's damaged flagship trying to hide behind one of Saturn's moons. Her fighter locked onto the larger vessel with weapons that could have vaporized it instantly. Instead, she fired a single precise shot that disabled their engines without harming the crew. Captain Jiwon, she broadcast to the Kalani ship. This is Lieutenant Minji of the Earth Defense Force. Your vessel is disabled. Prepare to be boarded. G1 stared at his view screen in disbelief. A single human fighter had just crippled his massive dreadnought with one shot. The pilot was a young female who looked like she could barely lift a weapon, yet she had just defeated one of the most powerful warships in the galaxy. How? He whispered. How is this possible? The boarding party that arrived gave him his answer. The humans wore armor that was clearly centuries ahead of anything the Kalani possessed. Their weapons were small and efficient, but the energy readings were off any scale he knew. The human leader removed her helmet, revealing the face of Captain Suyong. She looked at G1 with calm, professional eyes. Captain G1, she said in perfect Kalani language, you are now a prisoner of the Earth Defense Force. Your ship and crew will be treated according to the Galactic Conventions of War, which we know you have never bothered to follow. G1's golden skin paled. You speak our language. How long have you been watching us? Captain Suyong smiled grimly. Long enough to learn everything we needed to know about you, your people, and your weaknesses. Did you really think a species could develop interstellar travel without being noticed? Around the solar system, the surviving aliens were being rounded up by human forces that seemed to come from everywhere at once. Each capture was performed with surgical precision, designed to disable rather than destroy. The message was becoming clear. Humanity did not want to commit genocide. They wanted to send a message. And that message was simple. Earth was not defenseless. Earth was not primitive. And Earth would not tolerate threats to human life or freedom. The broken remnants of 4 mighty fleets found themselves prisoners of a species they had thought was prey. Now they were learning the most important lesson in galactic politics. Never attack someone unless you are absolutely sure you can win. The once mighty alien fleets limped through space toward the edge of the Sol system. Their dreams of easy conquest shattered like glass. Behind them, sleek human ships maintained a respectful but menacing distance, ensuring that the message was clearly understood. Captain G1 sat in his flagship's detention area, staring through the reinforced viewport at the stars. His golden skin had lost its shine, and his proud bearing was broken. Around him, the surviving members of his crew worked quietly to keep their damaged ship functioning. Commander Hyunsik approached him carefully. Captain, we are receiving reports from the other fleets. The casualties are extensive. G1 closed his eyes. Tell me. The Kalani 4th Fleet began with 200 ships. 67 remained functional. The Vextar lost over 300 bioships. The Jeknari formation is nearly extinct. Only 23 vessels survived. The Gulthani hunting pack has been reduced to fewer than 80 ships. The numbers were staggering. In less than one day, 4 of the galaxy's most powerful military forces had been reduced to broken remnants by a species they had dismissed as primitive. How did we get it so wrong? G1 whispered. Queen Tixara had the same question. She huddled in her damaged bioship, surrounded by the dying remains of her once great swarm. The chemical weapons the humans had used were specifically designed to target Vextar biology, causing their living ships to sicken and die slowly. Her drone generals brought her reports that made her compound eyes dim with despair. The humans had not just defeated them, they had studied them. Every weakness, every vulnerability, every tactical preference had been catalogued and prepared for. They knew we would come in swarms, reported one drone. They knew we would target their population centers. They knew we would use bioweapons. They were ready for everything we could do. Zephyros sang mournful harmonies as his crystal choir struggled to maintain their formation. The energy feedback from the humans' impossible defenses had shattered most of his vessels. The survivors were operating on emergency power, their beautiful crystalline structures cracked and dim. We tried to drain their star, he sang in broken notes. They turned our own power against us. How did they learn to manipulate energy in ways we never imagined? Pack leader Gorthak prowled the bridge of his flagship, his yellow eyes burning with shame and rage. His pack had been the hunters, the predators, the ones who struck fear into entire star systems. Now they were running like wounded prey from creatures they had thought were helpless. Pack leader, said one of his lieutenants carefully, the human pursuit ships are maintaining position. They could destroy us at any time, but they are not attacking. Gorthak's lip curled back from his fangs. They are sending a message. They want us to return to our territories and tell others what happened here. Admiral Minho stood in his command center beneath Luna, watching the alien fleets retreat on his tactical displays. Around him, his staff monitored every ship, every movement, every communication. "Sir," reported Technician Boyoung, "should we allow them to leave the system?" Mignot considered the question carefully. "Yes, but make sure they understand the terms. Captain Gunwoo, prepare your pursuit force." Captain Gunwoo's squadron of advanced human warships moved to intercept the fleeing aliens at the system's edge. His vessels were larger and more heavily armed than the fighters that had devastated the alien fleets during the initial battle. "Attention, alien commanders," Gunwoo broadcast on all frequencies. "This is Captain Gunwoo of the Earth Defense Force. You are being escorted to the edge of our system. Any attempt to stop, turn back, or deviate from your current course will be considered an act of aggression." The aliens had no choice but to comply. Their ships were too damaged to fight, their crews too demoralized to resist. As the broken fleets approached the edge of human space, Ambassador Yoongi's ship appeared beside them. His diplomatic vessel was sleek and peaceful looking, but the aliens could see the weapon ports hidden in its hull. "Greetings," Ambassador Yoongi transmitted to the alien commanders. "I am Ambassador Yoongi, representing the United Earth government. Before you leave our territory, there are several matters we need to discuss." Captain Jiwon was brought to the ambassador's ship along with Queen Tixara, Zephyros, and pack leader Gorthak. The four alien leaders found themselves in a conference room that was both elegant and clearly designed to impress. Ambassador Yoongi was a calm, professional human with graying hair and intelligent eyes. He wore a simple uniform and spoke in a measured tone that somehow made him more intimidating than any weapon. "You came to our system with the intention of conquest," he began without preamble. "You plan to enslave or exterminate the human race and claim our worlds for your own. Is this correct?" The alien leaders remained silent, but their expressions confirmed the truth. "I see," Yoongi continued. "You believed we were a primitive species that could not defend itself. You ignored the warnings of the Galactic Council and decided to take what you wanted by force." Jiwon finally found his voice. "Your technology? It should not exist. How do you have weapons that are centuries ahead of anything in the galaxy?" Ambassador Yoongi smiled slightly. "Captain, humans have been spacefaring for over 300 years. Did you really think we spent all that time building chemical rockets and metal spacecraft? But our scouts," Queen Tixara began, "saw exactly what we wanted them to see," Yoongi finished. "We are very good at appearing harmless when it suits our purposes." Pack leader Gorthak snarled softly. "You deceived us." "We defended ourselves," Yoongi corrected. "There is a difference. You came to our home with weapons and threats. We responded appropriately." Zephyros sang a question in his crystalline voice. "What happens to us now?" Ambassador Yoongi leaned back in his chair. "That depends on what you do when you return to your territories. Earth is now officially declaring its independence from any galactic authority that claims jurisdiction over us. We will establish diplomatic relations with species that approach us peacefully. We will defend ourselves against any who do not." He paused to let that sink in before continuing. "Your fleets will be allowed to return home with a simple message. Earth is under human protection. Any future military action against human territories, human colonies, or human citizens will be met with immediate and overwhelming response." "You would go to war with the entire galaxy?" Jiwon asked. "If the entire galaxy chooses to make war with us," Yoongi replied calmly, "but I suspect most species are smarter than that. You four were not." The meeting ended with the alien leaders being returned to their ships. As they prepared to enter hyperspace and flee the Sol system, they carried with them the most important intelligence their species had ever received. Humans were not prey. They were apex predators who had been hiding their true nature for centuries. Commander Hyunsik approached Captain Jiwon as their ship prepared to jump to hyperspace. "Captain, what will you tell the High Command?" Jiwon stared at the blue planet that had been their target. Earth looked so peaceful, so innocent. It was impossible to believe that such a quiet world could hide such devastating military power. "I will tell them the truth," he said quietly. "I will tell them that we found something in that system that we were never meant to disturb. I will tell them that the Galactic Council's warnings were not paranoid fears. They were desperate attempts to protect us from our own arrogance." The four fleets entered hyperspace and vanished, leaving the Sol system in peace. Behind them, Earth continued to spin quietly in its orbit, once again appearing harmless and primitive to any casual observer. But throughout the galaxy, word spread quickly. The Terran exclusion zone had been lifted, and 4 powerful fleets had gone to claim easy conquest. Only broken remnants had returned, carrying stories of weapons that should not exist and defenses that had turned the hunters into the hunted. Elder Vorthak received the reports in his chambers on the council homeworld. His ancient heart was heavy with sorrow but not surprise. He had tried to warn them, but arrogance had made them deaf to wisdom. He composed a new entry for the council records. The Terran exclusion zone has been lifted by force. 4 fleets attacked the human homeworld and were utterly defeated. Humanity has revealed itself as a military power beyond our current understanding. The galaxy must now decide whether to treat Earth as an enemy or seek peaceful relations with this sleeping giant that has finally awakened. In the depths of space, human ships continued their patrols, watching for any sign that the lesson had not been learned. Admiral Minho had made his position clear. Earth would no longer hide its strength. Any species that wanted to test humanity's resolve would discover that some prey were far more dangerous than their predators. The age of human isolation was over. The age of human expansion was about to begin, and the galaxy would never be the same again.